What's up, everybody? Welcome to K&J Studios. It's your boy Jay.
I forgot my name. It's your girl Kaya.
No.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to K&J Studios. It's your boy Jay.
It's your girl Kaya.
And if you're wondering what this fluffy thing is on my shirt, it's her ugly microphone.
At least it sounds gonna be on point. That's all I gotta say. After 5 years of anticipation, we finally have the teaser for the live action Avatar series. And if anybody's been following us for a little minute, we've actually been covering all of this for years, like everything. We've gone over pretty much every single update that they've had about the series. We've pretty much covered it. Not only just that, but we've done videos on the original series as well. We're huge fans, as you can tell here. So after all this time, we finally have a little snippet of what to expect. We have some photos that we're going to be going over from the Tudum 2023 Netflix Global. Look, you're messing me up, you fool. The Netflix Global Fan Event. All right, so we're gonna just have some fun here. We're gonna go over the trailer. We're gonna also go over the portion from the cast as well from the event, and then from there we're just gonna go over the photos and also give our little commentary, our honest commentary. So if you can't take honesty, then this just isn't the place for you, because he doesn't hold back for sure. I'm more of the more optimistic one, but we're just gonna be honest as fans of Avatar and just give our opinions and our theories, our hopes and concerns for this live action. So with that being said, we're gonna get right into it. I don't know where to. I didn't realize it.
The last Airbender.
Bro, you're so petty. I feel like that'd be so awkward just standing up there like that. Isn't it crazy how he actually kind of sounds like Sokka? His voice is kind of like very close to it.
The cast all turn to the screen behind them.
This
Images of their characters appear. A girl wears a fur-trimmed blue jacket.
that was
And a
late.
young boy is bald with an tattoo on his forehead.
What is this? What is this you have on here?
Don't know what that is, I swear. And that's pretty much it from here. They just pretty much just walk off a screen at this point. Okay, video has ended.
It's gonna be so bad.
All right. So the first thing that we're gonna do, obviously,
it's gonna be bad.
obviously there wasn't much to react to because it was pretty much a basic kind of video. I feel like I said, what I think is I think a lot of fans after watching this were not satisfied or like very underwhelmed by pretty much the whole thing. Not only the teaser, but it just wasn't really something to be like hype about. It wasn't really like a experience I feel like anybody was really wanting. Like we wanted something more, you know what I mean? Very underwhelming, to say the least.
No,
But
it's not that we wanted something more. We wanted something better. It's quite that simple.
It's both, yeah. Because I'm saying, like, you know, I think
We know what a teaser is. We see teasers for everything. There's
Yeah.
good teasers and bad teasers. It's just straight up bad. That's number one. Number two, we've witnessed, you know, these sort of live events
yeah,
where the characters sort of, where the actors who come and play the characters sort of present themselves and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of them it's interesting. Like you see Marvel do it, DC for some reason, even they figure out a way to make it interesting.
yeah.
It was boring. It was dry. You can tell it was kind of really hard to be excited for it.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys are really awkward.
Yeah, and
like they seem really.
Yeah.
Not only do they seem awkward together,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they genuinely seem awkward. It's like, you've never done this
that
before,
seems like
have you?
that's one thing I had to think about too and consider is that this is a big break for pretty much all of them, except for I know that okay, so Dallas Liu, who's playing Zuko, like aside from him, like he already has had experience with big things like Marvel and stuff like that. So he's already pretty much familiar with that kind of thing. I feel like he's still coming out and getting his like career like really going now.
Well,
but
Daniel Day Kim. Well, you're talking about those main 4 characters, right?
yeah. I'm just talking about that's the big break for the main cast. So like, you know, people like all of them. That's pretty much, this is new to them. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot of pressure because not only is this huge for them and they're really kicking off their career, but they have a lot to live up to as far as the characters. A lot of judgment. It's a lot of work. We all know with like Avatar fans, we can be very like, we don't play about it. And I think a lot of it probably comes from the past film that came out that was so bad. I feel like a lot of fans just like, you know, have high expectations. And so it's not really our fault either. You're dealing with the cartoon or animation that you're making into a live action. You're dealing with a cartoon, I guess you'd call it a cartoon, that is like beloved by pretty much everyone who's seen it. I don't know anybody who's seen it and does not like it. And so it's a lot of pressure because a live action, converting something like that into live action, you're asking for it. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like one of the type of things where there's going to be a lot of judgment regardless because this is such a difficult thing to pull off. And so for them as new actors, as they're trying to grow their career, it's a lot of pressure. As we heard from Dallas when he was talking about this whole experience for himself, by Dallas, you guys already know Zuko. So, you know, he's talking about his experience and how this is huge for even him. Even with all his experience, he still felt like he kind of wasn't really good enough. In a way, he wanted to make sure he was representing the characters properly. So it's a lot of pressure for them, especially being like so fresh to the game like that. And so while these older people, so like some of the older people in the cast who have had a lot of experience, they're having to learn from the older people and kind of get that encouragement from them because this is huge, you know what I mean? And so for me, I kind of sympathize with the main cast a little bit more. And so I don't really judge them as much because I would be just as nervous as they are. You're saying, but before a huge group of people and they're all looking at you and just like, you know, they're expecting a lot from you. You know what I mean? And so for me, I can sympathize with them in that way personally.
I don't sympathize at all.
Wow.
I don't.
Yeah.
I have a philosophy. It is or it isn't.
I mean, that's fair.
It's good or it's bad. It's not. There's some things that fall very well in between, but everything that I've seen to this point has been terrible. And it's honestly no different than what we saw with the original
that's kind of
Avatar. Think about it. Yeah. Remember the teasers that we saw for that movie. Remember the original images that we saw for that movie. Remember the live events that were happening for that movie. It's literally the same story, like the same soup warmed over.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like. Is what
I think
it
that's
looks
what
like.
scared me when I seen the images because I think what it came down to for me was the fact that, like I said before, as I mentioned, turn into a cartoon into a live action. I think there's no way of getting around that awkwardness of seeing it like in live action. It just looks weird either way. You know what I mean? Like I think there's like it's gonna look awkward.
It looks
it's not gonna
like
look...
a Broadway theater play
and
as opposed to an actual movie where you want things to look realistic. They're from a tribe. They're from a tribe. They're wearing clothes that are made from animal skins and different things like that. That means that it should look worn. It should look used.
That's what I was
They
thinking
look
too,
like costumes. He's a monk. Monks wear robes. What he's wearing doesn't look worn at all. It looks like it's fresh out the washing machine on
It looked
freshly sewn, like put together, and it's like, wear this. Like it doesn't look like broken in or anything. They look uncomfortable wearing it.
Yeah.
It's really, and then on top of that, all the colors are too perfect. Yeah. It's kind of, it's just like I said, it feels like a Broadway theater movie.
I can agree. Yeah.
I mean, and if anybody disagrees with that, look at any other movie that's considered to be major production and look at the way the costumes look. Really good people, really good costume makers and costume designers know the line between too perfect and too rugged. Right. And there has to be kind of a balance in between. Yeah. And there really is no balance.
That's what I think I was looking for. Like I was looking at the pictures and I said it's definitely giving like Party City vibes. Like if you're looking for a costume, that's kind of the picture that you would see on there. And so like that's kind of like my thing is just like they're saying that, you know, one of the things that they discussed that they're going to be doing with this series is making it a little bit darker and stuff like that. So I'm like looking at the costumes.
I don't see no darkness.
it just doesn't give. I'm like, I think for me, seeing their costumes, I'm like, it really just depends on the vibe of the show and how like everything looks to see how everything is supposed to come together. But when I hear like a live action and just realistically, it like their costume should not be looking like that. It just looks like a costume, basically. Like I'm saying, they need to look worn, realistic, and you're talking about bringing in darker vibes too. I feel like that should also play a part in kind of how they look originally.
Even when you look at like, it looks factory.
Yeah.
See that texture and everything. You can see it from far away, but when you zoom in on it, you can really see like you can tell that's like factory.
Yeah.
It has no look of authenticity whatsoever.
And I think that's something that
and this is even worse because you're supposed to be the Southern Water Tribe is not nearly as advanced as the Northern Water Tribe. So this right here doesn't look Southern Water Tribe-y at all.
So what he's referencing to is what Zuko is wearing. I personally like Sokka. My bad. Yes, what Sokka is wearing. I really like.
I like the direction. I like the idea.
Yeah.
It just it's not true to his character. Early.
I mean, I could honestly say I don't necessarily disagree, but I like that they kind of made it a little bit different, a little bit more like personality, give it a little bit more of like, I think what he's wearing, I feel like is going in a direction where it should have been going into. As far as like what like they should have looked like, I feel like it should look more realistic and of course a little bit more worn. But the way that he was dressed, I feel like was definitely on point. It didn't seem as costumish unless you look at the little like arm pads. You could tell that obviously like the armor on it looks like obviously fake, and so just kind of like things like that I feel like we're gonna be picky here. Okay,
I think probably the best one, low key, is probably what Zuko has on.
I like Zuko's too,
and that's because it sort of falls in line with what it's supposed to look like.
A little bit
like
worn.
The helmet looks worn. Everything looks. But my issue is like that's not a third to fourth degree burn scar. It looks like he got punched in the eye.
I'm trying to think. Did Zuko have eyebrow on that side?
No, he didn't. Because if you have that kind of burn, I don't know if you've ever seen someone who's had third, fourth degree burns before, and the scars that are left. First of all, his eyes, his eye wouldn't be white anymore. Yeah. That part of his eye is the majority of that whiteness is almost
That is
gone.
true. What I'm seeing here is he didn't have an eyebrow there either.
He doesn't have an eyebrow. It goes down further. But also, if you actually look up a third to fourth degree burn scar, but literally flesh is gone. It should be almost like a deep scar. You see how it's pink and you have like the kind of you see how the texture to it. And the crazy part is that the animated version of Zuko had that same type pattern to the scar. Yeah. But this right here looks like he got punched in the eye a couple times. Yeah. And he has a black eye.
And it also looks more like CGI-ish too. Yeah. It doesn't like it. I feel like that's a good thing about like doing good makeup stuff because you could easily make that look like. But this looks like they probably just edited it and just.
I don't think they wanted to take the eyebrow off. But I mean, if you don't want to take the eyebrow off, you can cover it.
I don't really know what the reason is for them doing it like that. But I think like our point is just the fact that like.
It's not terribly realistic.
Yeah.
It goes back to what we saw with the original Avatar series.
I mean, not the original Avatar series, but you mean the movie?
The original Avatar movie, live action movie. Yeah. Actually, I don't even think the Zuko in the first live action movie even had a scar. He didn't have a scar.
They didn't even do the scar right on that.
They didn't do the scar at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like. See, this would make sense. That's more accurate.
I would agree.
I think this is a fan. I think this was a fan created one.
Yeah.
This actually makes perfect sense to how you see the eyebrows gone, you see the scar. Yeah. The actual visual scarring.
Send me that, 'cause I definitely want to put that in so they can see.
This right here makes a lot more sense and it's more true to what you would see from a burn victim.
It's not impossible to add
and even then even then it doesn't have the same type like color that you had in the animated series, but it's accurate.
And like we're saying these things not to be like nitpicky, it's just that we're gonna be the ones to be straight up and honest about this kind of thing. And it's just like we're not saying that this is gonna be like have any type of real impact on like the quality of the series. It's just as far as like the look of it, we're just gonna be honest about it and probably say what majority people are thinking. And I feel like when a lot of people seen the images, I feel like they had a lot of the same mindset where it just wasn't hitting for them. And I feel like even like as far as like costumes, I expected a lot more. I was like, you're saying it's gonna be darker, a live action. I'm thinking they're gonna have things looking like like at least really realistic in a way. And so to see it and it looks kind of just like a repeat of the movie, it's just kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of expecting more, like better, I guess, kind of quality in a way. But to not see that is kind of a downer in a way. But other than that, like I said, I do really like the cast. I feel like they did a great job casting everyone in a way. Like I can't really complain about it. You know what I mean?
I just don't know the excuse
Yeah.
for getting less experienced actors besides being cheap, because they're out there, and we see it a lot now that more movies that are centered around Asian culture are coming out. We see it all the time on Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for you not going and getting more experienced actors for the role, because you could tell they looked uncomfortable. Gordon Cormier was extremely uncomfortable. That, I don't know if you heard me say he was visibly shaking before they got to him. Like, he was super nervous, and that doesn't have a whole lot to do with filming. But you want experience with something, because I assume you make one season, you're gonna want to make a second, and I'm guessing a third. I'm not saying that it's gonna be a bomb. But my expectations aren't high.
Yeah.
Like that's just going based off of what we see from successful live action series.
Right.
Because keep in mind, majority of what we watch, majority of what we see comes from books. They come from comics. They come from they're coming from things that are already sort of built around the imagination. So we know what successfully turning an animated series or a comic book into live action looks like. We've seen it. So if we're going based off of history up to this point, it's easy to see that this is probably going to be another failure on the part of the creators.
Right. Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. And it's like I said, I feel like, the quality of the acting, I feel like it's definitely something that to be concerned about.
When I saw that they casted that girl from Kung Fu, I knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be rough. When you got, because even then, Danny Pudi, he's a funny actor, but he's not necessarily a actor. Like, he's not a great actor. He plays within who he is, the kind of person that he is. So I think probably the main people that I saw in here that I actually know to be talented actors is obviously Paul Sun-Hyung Lee and Daniel Dae Kim. Those are the two that I know are top, that are really, really, really good actors. I'm not sure about anybody else in the cast, and some of the people that I have seen in the past. Kung Fu was bad. If anybody's ever I seen Kung Fu, one episode of Kung Fu, please go watch the first episode and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's like, and the thing is, I want to give the newer actors a fair shot, because I feel like sometimes, even if the acting kind of falls through, the storyline usually makes up for it. So I feel like it's also the story that they're telling as well that's going to be very important. It's going to be the script that's going to really matter as well. And so it's just like, but those things to keep in mind, like I try to keep an open mind about these things. Like maybe, if something's lacking, something else will kind of pick it up a little bit more. But I can definitely agree with what you're saying as far as like the quality of acting as well.
And it's very difficult for me to, because for example, the Marvel series, they brought in Kamala Khan, right? I forget what the name of the young girl who plays that actor, but she had no previous history in the industry. She didn't have a portfolio. So basically, Marvel, I could trust Marvel casting someone who's never done it before, because that the people around them, that the actors around them are top tier, some of the best in the industry. Right. Top tier directors and producers in the entire industry. So it's easier for me to trust that. Right now we're dealing with kind of mid-tier producers, directors, script writers. And then, because you had the original creators that stepped out of the picture, and now you have a group of of probably C, if not D tier actors surrounding these young, new, up and coming actors. And the fear of that is, if this bombs, what of their careers?
Yeah, because this is a pretty big, because if you
There's
think about
a lot
it, who have you seen from the past movie that really did anything else after?
Nothing.
So it's just
You've seen none of them.
That's what I'm saying. I have nothing against these newer actors. I really, really hope the best for them in this series. It's just that this is a hard thing.
There's some things that you can't take live action.
Yeah,
there's just some things that you can't.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people were saying the same thing with One Piece. Like, you're looking at One Piece, that they actually just released a teaser for One Piece that was also presented on this particular event, and so a lot of people were saying that like when you're taking something as difficult as especially an anime style show or whatever the case may be, and you're trying to make it live action, it is super difficult.
It's one of the struggles that Mortal Kombat has had. And Mortal Kombat, I can't say that Mortal Kombat in the previous movie, their CGI was a lot better than what I expected it to be. But even with that, it's extremely difficult to CGI things like water and fire. And that's why it's such a big deal with what Avatar did with Avatar Way of Water. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Being able to create a realistic movie with that actually involves water and the movement of it. It's really difficult to put that into CGI.
Right.
And it's wild because water is probably one of the most simple things. You would think that it would be pretty easy to make water realistic, but it's actually not.
Right.
And that's what. And now you're trying to figure out how to. Because keep in mind, in Avatar, in the animated series, they didn't even. A lot of times, it's very difficult to show air.
Right.
How do you display that?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with where you kick up. Is there going to be dust everywhere? Like there's dust just everywhere, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you have the same thing with fire. Fire is very difficult. And some of the things, especially some of the things with fire that are displayed in Avatar: The Last Airbender aren't physically possible with fire. So fire cannot go airborne. There's just certain things that fire cannot do. It's a struggle that you're going to run into.
Right.
It's just one of those things that cannot go live
Yeah,
action.
and that's why we're not knocking the actors. We're not knocking the people who are creating the series, because we know that they've gone above and beyond to put this whole thing together, and they're dedicated. The writers, the producers, everybody is doing the best that they can to make this thing come out good. Even with the CGI, we've seen all the different technologies that they're using to try to bring to represent this show properly. But the truth of the matter is, it just comes down to some things just don't turn out like he said. Like, some things it's hard to convert into real life.
They may do a great job acting, but
Yeah.
I still find it hard to believe that they're going to be able to pull out the CGI. That's the thing.
That's another thing I was going to ask.
It's such a big part of the show.
That's what I was going to ask you too, what you thought about the teaser, because what I did was I kind of tried to compare the teaser to like maybe seeing how we can get an idea of how the CGI could possibly look in the series. And I kind of felt it was kind of like not really impressive, the teaser, looking at the elements of how everything looked. Even if you look at the picture there with Katara and the water, I'm still not really like, it's, it still kind of gives that weird, awkward, like even in a movie, the water and stuff still look pretty cool, but it's just like, it's just gonna be like a toss up whether or not it's not gonna look as satisfying as a original series. So I just know that's for sure.
And one thing to remember is Avatar: Way of Water was pretty much complete CGI. So when you're trying to mix a person and CGI, that's different.
Yeah,
and it's very difficult to make CGI and the actual person mix and make it look realistic.
Right.
And that's what they're attempting to do. And that's the difficult part that they're going. That's that wall they're going to continue to run into.
Yeah.
Is because it's like, okay, that's a person, but that water next to them don't look real.
Yeah.
And that's why certain people moved away from doing green screens and trying to do actual sets, because if we can use as little CGI as possible when we have people on the screen, it's easier to make it look realistic. But if the entire scene is CGI, you can't tell the difference because there is no difference. But in this case, that's not necessarily the case.
I feel like a lot of the fans were definitely, I feel like, expecting at least something that was better than this. So I feel like my expectations are even now a little bit kind of like just like, okay, I was feeling like at least if the pictures or something look really good, like even if like just like the costumes look better, I feel like even that still had me having like, okay, so the vibe is actually there. But even with that part kind of being just like not even like it just doesn't look good, it makes me very concerned. And so now it's just kind of like I was really excited about it before because I was like, okay, I think they could do this, and then seeing the pictures is kind of like, I don't know. It's just kind of giving like a bit of. Oh yeah, another thing I did want to say is one thing I can appreciate is the arrow that they did for Aang. As far as like if you zoom in, you can actually see the patterns in the arrow, and they actually tried to make it look more accurate. I think for me looking at this series, what I can personally say, trying to be kind of open-minded, is understand that this is an adaptation and just kind of looking at it for what it is outside of the original, and just kind of seeing what they have put together for us to look at, and then just judging it based off of that. Like, is the writing good? Is the acting good? And kind of trying to separate it from the two, even though it's a little bit hard. Understanding that they kind of separate the two, because if I were to try to compare them, I would feel like I have a lot of things to pick at and be upset at. But if I'm able to look at it and say, okay, this isn't exactly like how the original was, which it doesn't need to be, but it's still good. You know what I mean?
If you're gonna do live action, there has to be an element of reality involved.
Yeah.
And I understand that because you have to do things in a realistic manner, because it's no longer animated, it's live.
Yeah.
It's live action. That's even more reason to make things believable. Like the scar.
Yeah, I can even say too, if you don't mind me saying this, but even if you look behind Sokka, like the picture and just how the background looks, you notice that? Like, it gives
Yeah,
very
it
much
doesn't look
CGI.
like it doesn't look like a set.
It doesn't look real. One thing that was said is when they talked about the character development, I'm definitely interested in seeing how they develop the characters. Like I said, for me, if they can make it, for me personally, I can get past bad acting. I can get past some bad CGI to kind of give it, like, you know, some credit, because, you know, obviously you can't expect this thing to be spot on. But if the storyline, if the character development and stuff like that can be good, then I can be okay with it. I mean, for me personally, I can get, like, for me personally, if I'm watching like a show, despite anything, if it could be bad acting, it could look terrible, but if the storyline is good, I'll watch it. Literally, that I don't care. Like, literally, I think that's what I like about XO Kitty. Like, you know, the show you caught me watching, you was roasting me for it. It's like the acting in it wasn't that good, and it was just kind of like, you know, everything else wasn't exactly like the best, but the storyline is what makes you want to keep watching it.
No,
wait,
I can help you. You can watch that all the time?
I can watch it if the storyline is good.
I can help you.
If it's good, I'll watch it. The
do that?
storyline, yeah. And so even when it comes to this series, I can give it credit if the storyline is good. And I know that they've, like I said, they've taken time out, truly take time out and to strategize and create like writing for it that would be good. So, you know, I'm having hope that these writers and stuff did a good job as far as that end of it. I know CGI and all this other stuff continue to be a little bit tougher to try to accomplish, but the storyline is good. I will be fine.
We already know the Avatar storyline, so what's
I mean, this is an adaptation though, so there's gonna be some things that are different. That's what I'm saying. Like, if the storyline that they are doing is good and it's not like, you know, you're not mad about it, the changes that they've made.
You just reminded me about that. It's really gonna be bad. It's gonna be so bad.
It's a toss-up.
It's hard to make an adaptation to a storyline that's already perfect. It's hard to, Avatar: The Last Airbender has one of the most perfect plot points in development as far as shows go that's ever been put on screen.
And that's
perfect. The way that it was developed from beginning to end was perfect. So if you're making adjustments to an already, I'm sorry, but you're not going to make something that's already perfectly put together more perfect. Please, anybody who's watching, what could they have done better with the Avatar storyline? Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I don't think anybody could really say because
you can't. So my thing is like, okay, so what adjustments could you possibly? The adjustment that you make is only going to make people ask more questions, or going to make the plot point weaker.
That is true. That's what makes this even tougher, because now you're having to try to not necessarily redo something, but you're doing an adaptation. So you're already trying to kind of, in a sense, redo something that was already perfect in the first place. Which is why I personally hate when they take like a good classic movie these days and they remake it, because it's like, it was perfect the first time. Why are you remaking it? The remake that they put out is like just terrible compared to the original. So this is why I'm saying this is a huge challenge. So I feel like there's a slim chance that this could actually be like really, really good. Not saying that it couldn't be good in some ways, but it's gonna be really, really tough. Which is why I think that these the original, like not original cast, but the main cast was so nervous, because they have a lot to work up to, and it's just kind of like, if this is not good, then it's just kind of like, you know, it's a lot on them.
Based off that scar, they get a 0.
For me, I don't have high expectations at all, just because I understand that this is definitely gonna be something that's hard to pull off, but I can leave an open mind for, you know, trying to enjoy at least something in it, or like keeping an open mind to kind of just watch it and judge it based on for what it is and what I see and the storylines and stuff like that, and not really try to nitpick at it too much, because if you do that, you're just gonna just be pissed off the whole time you're watching it. So I'm gonna try to keep an open mind watching it and kind of understand the vision that the writers and stuff like that were working on, because one thing I have to keep in mind too is that this is not only big for us fans, but it's big for the Asian community. It's big for the indigenous community. We know how hard they try to cast accordingly to those groups. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like it's so much bigger than just us, but you know, it's also, you know, them taking pride in their culture, and a lot of the writers and stuff are, you know,
gotta
Asian.
Make sure all the actors gotta make sure all the actors are what they say they are, right?
Oh, bro, the shade. Yeah, you know, like they put in effort to try to, you know, make this something that was special. And so I will keep that in mind as I watch it and just kind of see it for their vision and what they're trying to create, and understand that this is bigger than just us fans, and try to, like, you know, be supportive in that way.
And you can tell they did the marketing bad too. It was delayed multiple times over a year before they even got on set to get started.
Yeah.
And you wonder why excitement died. Is not because of people's excitement for Avatar. It's because you took 2 to 3 years to get. First of all, you took a year to even get started, and then you had to take another 6 months because the original writers, the original creators, walked away from it.
And I think that's exactly what goes into the disappointment, especially for me, because we've been, like I said, we've been covering this for years. A lot of us have been following this for years.
They said almost a year. I'm like, really?
And it's like, looking at this, it's just like, it's like you took, we maybe the quality, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully we see some of that, like, reason why the time was so long was maybe because they took more time for the story writing and things like that. But it's just like, if none of that stuff is there, which we're seeing this, it's just kind of like, it's just like, I don't know now. It's just kind of like, now it's just like all this time has been taken that you guys been working on this. And I'm just hoping that maybe all that time was for some type of logical reason. And we can actually see that through the series. Don't think that I'm being
tough for no reason. I'm being tough because I know what a successful production looks like, because we've seen it so many times. We've seen people do live action adaptations. We've seen successes. We've seen failures. So we know what both look like. And the looks like, smells like.
Maybe we'll see exactly why the original creators left.
Listen, if it looked like Dookie, smelled like Dookie, it's Dookie. Like,
I know there's still a lot of people that are still excited about it.
Oh, you should.
And I feel like there's a side of me that is still excited about it in a way to where I am very just curious of how this is going to turn out.
I want y'all to get excited as possible. Get super excited. And the reason why is because when this fails, I want you all to be so outraged that this never happens again.
Even still, like, you know, Avatar Studios is still working on their stuff. So we know that we're still getting a lot of stuff on that end. So if it is bad, I know that the original creators was like, well, I know ain't nobody going to try to touch it again if we not involved in it. And it makes me want to know, like, what was it that the original creators wanted to do with this live action? You know, hopefully after live action comes out, they can probably, like, try to maybe say what their plans were, so that we can kind of see what their vision was for it and why they chose to walk away.
Just to give y'all an idea of how huge Avatar is currently, the animated series is still the number 2 most popular searched anime show. Number 2. It's a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I have one. That is crazy.
That is, and keep in mind, Rotten Tomatoes is usually one of the hardest scores.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With this
9.3 out of 10.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, with this type of thing, I feel like the only way in my eyes that I feel like they could really pull this off is by taking it and respecting the original, but being able to actually make this into its own thing that we can learn to love as well. That is different from the original, but it's something that we can all love and appreciate and be like, okay, this is good. It's not the original, but it's still really good. So I feel like, you know, in that way, they're able to take this and really make it into their own and make it good, give it a good storyline and stuff like that. I feel like that could really make the difference. But obviously, that's why they didn't go in a direction of trying to do it exactly like the original, because we know what happens in the original. So I really feel like the writing and stuff is going to be what's really, really, really important for this series, which is why, like I said, I said before, I'm excited to see it in a way, because I want to see what they've done with it on their end, outside of just looking at the costumes, aside of looking at the CGI. I want to know what the story is. I want to see what the character development is looking like. I want to see that stuff and actually see, like, what they've been working on this whole time.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is the number 2 most searched anime show. Guess what's number 1?
What?
One Piece.
Oof.
The number 1 and the number 2 most searched anime shows is One Piece and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
2 of which Netflix has taken up to make live action
series.
and yeah, two with huge fan bases. How much did they put into the budget for creating this series? Can you look it up real quick?
Let's see. Each episode costs more than $15 million to make,
and I think
8 episodes per season.
That's a lot of money for. That is so much money. That is a lot. These have to be. It has to be good, bro. The CGI better be on point. Everything better be on point, bro.
No,
with that type of budget. Come on now.
Let me see.
It has to be good because if it's not, you know how much money that they would lose. That's why Disney is in the place where they at right now, losing so much money, like doing these things and it not being good. I don't even know what to say at this point.
Because the average is usually somewhere between 2 and 3 million per episode.
They got 15 per
They got
episode
15 million
for 8
per episode
episodes.
for 8.
Yeah, I think just based off of the costumes, especially with the budget that they're dealing with, I'm kind of shocked that it looks the way that it looks because you would expect more with such a huge budget for a series, like 15 million per episode. And this is kind of what it looks like. It's just kind of like, I don't know. But
I just think when you take
yeah.
something like this, you're biting off more you can chew.
And I feel like a lot of that budget definitely has gone to the CGI. So who knows? Maybe the CGI is really going to look on point because it's such a huge budget. And I know they've also taken the time out to go to certain locations to film and stuff like that as well. So maybe I hope that the Avatar universe in live action is really immersive to where like it looks really good because we all know that just like the nature and stuff like that in the original series, even though it's in cartoon form, it's really cool looking. You know what I mean? Like it's a cool world, a cool universe. And so I really want to see if that's where the budget has gone to, is investing into the world. Because if that's the case, I can be okay with that too.
The Mandalorian's first season cost around $100 million to produce with a budget of 12.5 to 15 million per episode. And I'm already not seeing what I saw from The Mandalorian. Remember the Mandalorians teaser? Mm-hmm. And then they had their live event. Mm-hmm. And they had their images that were released.
Yeah.
And it was on a different tier, a far different tier than what we're seeing here. Mm-hmm. So where is this $15 million per episode going? I already don't see it. $15 million, you should be able to see it in the images.
I can agree with that. And at least in the costumes.
One of the biggest mistakes that George Lucas made with the Star Wars series in episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 was that he used way too much CGI. They went back with the shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mandalorian, Boba Fett. They went back to sets. It was way better. That's where their 15 million was going. When you have too much CGI and you put people in the middle of it, it's not gonna look right.
And that's what I think maybe is why this kind of looks the way it looks. Like I said, like the backgrounds and stuff like that. Obviously there's some things that you're gonna have to do, like obviously like this other air temple, that's gonna have to be CGI and stuff like that to certain extents. But I do agree with you as far as like creating the real sets is gonna be, that's a good investment, a great investment. I don't know if they've actually built out their sets. I don't think they have. I think majority of it is indeed CGI that they've done. And so I feel like if that's the case, it could definitely be a con for sure. If that's the case, I feel like obviously when you're going to places like it would be a lot to invest into to create certain sets for certain places. Mm-hmm. It would definitely make it the quality way better and really bring it to life. But other than that, like, you have anything else you want to say?
The more I research, the more I become discouraged. So yeah. I think we're done.
Yeah, I let us know down below. We're not trying to be downers here.
What do you guys? I want to know what you guys think of the budget. Let me know what you think of the budget.
Yeah, that knowing the budget alone is speaking volumes. It could definitely be good. It could be something that you still enjoy. Like I said, we've only seen very little of what we are to expect, and even still, they're keeping a lot of stuff really close to their chest. So we really don't know what they have in store for the original series. I personally feel like in a way they could be holding a lot of stuff back from us. Maybe this isn't exactly how it's going to look in the original series, not the original series, but in their series. It could be the case.
What year?
Who knows? Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that the release date is in 2024. We're not sure which time. They even keeping that close to their chest, so we don't even know what time in 2024 we're actually going to get it. So that's another huge thing. I feel like a lot of fans were definitely disappointed, is because 2024, okay, so when? Like, it's just like you keep us waiting, you don't really say anything, and it's just kind of like, what can we expect at this point? So we don't even know when in 2024 we're going to be getting this. A lot of people are saying it possibly in the first quarter of 2024, but at this point, it's really hard to tell. Really have no clue at this point.
We have a correction. It's not a adaptation. It's an authentic adaptation.
Oh.
That's even worse.
Whatever that means.
Authentic adaptation means that they're going to remain true to the original. Either way, this is bad.
I can definitely say that. I can tell that they seem like they're trying their best with it, so I'll give them credit where that is. It seems like they genuinely care about representing this properly. Whether or not it comes out good is a different story.
But it shows something bad on either side, because either they're lying or they don't know what authentic adaptation means. If they said this is an authentic adaptation and they don't actually stick to the storyline and the plot that was laid out by the original creators, because the original creators said that this wasn't what they had planned, didn't have anything to do with what they originally wanted for the series. Remember, if that was the case, the original creators would have stayed on.
That is true. That's a good point. Yeah, we're not saying it can't be done. It's just a lot to consider. It's not easy.
6 years.
That's what I'm saying. It's had all these years. Maybe it's gonna turn out way better than any of us could imagine. That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm keeping an open mind to see what they come up with. But
and if it do suck, them graphics better look something like
Avatar:
Way of Water.
You lose somewhere, got to be winning somewhere else. If everything's bad, then that's just ridiculous at that point.
I don't care what you think about Avatar: Way of Water, whatever you may think about it. It was fun to look at.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to put any disrespect on the actors or anything like that, because they're just doing their job. And at the end of the day, I give them so much respect for that, because this is not an easy thing to do, to put yourself out there, especially as a new actor, and to take a risk
such a
like
big
this.
Project.
Yeah, you could definitely see how nervous they are and stuff like that, which is why I'm saying that I don't blame them. If this is bad, I'm not going to knock them for it if their acting isn't where we think it should be, because, like I said, I mean, you can, but at the same time, they're new. So it's just kind of at the same time, it's just like, that's not their fault. It's the producers and stuff. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who do the casting and stuff like that. So, like I said, if anything's bad with it, I wouldn't blame the actors. I would probably just blame the people behind the screen who had all this time to prep and prepare and was giving all these, promises, and not really promises, but, they had a lot of things to try to encourage us. But if it's not good, they're to blame. I don't really blame, the cast or anything like that. They're doing the best that they can.
Thinking about how bad this is going to be.
Yeah, it's yeah. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you guys think? You guys relate to what we're saying? Do you have different points of view that can honestly maybe make us think a little bit more and maybe change our perspective as well? We're obviously going to try to follow this a little bit more and be looking forward to, watching this series when it does release and kind of giving our opinions on it, our raw, honest opinions. We wanted to try to do a watch party where we could all watch it together. We talked about that for years, being able to sit and actually watch it.
That was what live watch party was supposed to be 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a long time ago. Yeah. So maybe we could do that again. If you guys are interested in that, definitely comment and let us know.
Avatar releasing in 2026.
So if you're interested in that, definitely make sure to smash that subscribe button.
Like, share, comment, subscribe.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it, right?
We out of there.
Yeah.